Welcome to a quick tutorial on how we complete a waste diversion assessment. So the whole goal with a waste diversion assessment is to reduce how much materials from renovation during deconstruction end up at landfill. And the best way to do that is to look at a space. I'm going to show you an example project. It's a kitchen. This is what the existing kitchen looked like. And we want to determine, what here can be reused, recycled, and basically not sent to landfill to go from that space to this kitchen room renovation. There is a structural wall to remove that we'll talk about, but the goal here is we want to approach this really from the layers that will remove them on site. And that really happens working from the last layer that was installed. So it's opposite operation. So if we look at this kitchen, the existing kitchen, we start with the last things that go on. So that begins with the appliances. Then we move on to plumbing fixtures, then countertop, cabinets, wood trim around windows, crown mold, floors, in opposite order they were installed. Once the whole space is cleaned out, then we can start to remove drywall, framing, utilities back to a bare space. So that's what we'll do today. We'll take a look at the floor plan for this property. It's a long, sort of 23-foot wide house by about 65 feet long. And we're focusing on this rear part of the home here. So we're renovating the existing kitchen in the rear. We have a large bearing wall to remove here and replacing that with an LVL in the ceiling. And then we're making a wider opening between the dining room and the great room. So we have another bearing wall to remove here, and then we remove all the finishes back to drywall. In this partition, we have to strip the partition and also figure out where all the framing and utilities go. So again, as a refresher, here's the kitchen we're dealing with. So looking at the existing and moving to the proposed, we can see that a lot of stuff happens here. There's a window that gets removed above the range. The sink gets relocated and changes. All the appliances change, all the cabinetry change. And of course, this wall at the end of the kitchen is removed to make room for this peninsula. So the best thing to do is consider looking at this operation from the last thing that got installed and moving backwards. So let's open up here our template for our waste diversion assessment. Now, when you're looking at a property, we can assume that the client has removed all the furniture and any sort of immediate household waste. So in this case, we don't have anything that's really harmful. If you had a refrigerator that was not donatable and was quite old, we can't just put those in our bin. That, because it's full of refrigerant and compressed gas, it is sort of a household waste material. So that gets loaded here, but we don't have that here. So let's move down to the most important category, which is what materials can be reused. And let's start looking at our kitchen, the existing kitchen, and the last layer that got installed, and that's the kitchen appliances. So looking at the after picture, we can see that none of the appliances remained. The hood fan has changed, the stove was changed, the dishwasher has changed. This is a double sink. There's a double sink, but it's different that's here. This is a drop-in sink. So all of that can get donated. So let's go to our waste diversion plan. We can write name. So we go kitchen, appliances. Oops. Kitchen appliances, location, that is in the kitchen. Amount, if it's not a square foot material or an area or volume, we can write not applicable. And destination, this is where we want to actually confirm where these are to go. So we'll come back to this in a second. We'll find destinations for all of these materials. The next layer looking at this kitchen is the appliances are out. We can then take out the plumbing fixtures and then countertops and cabinets. So all that again is not waste material. It can be reused. We'll go kitchen, sink, location is the kitchen, amount, we can say 1 if we like, and again we'll find a destination for that. Next we have the kitchen Actually, we can just say countertop. And we have the cabinets. And again, those in the kitchen, I can just simply copy and paste. NA, again, NA. Yeah, because we're not really quantifying things like kitchen cabinets and countertops in square footage or volume. All right, so now we have to figure out kind of where some of these materials can go. And actually, let's check one more thing. Let's look at the floors. So in the existing kitchen, we had looks like a walnut pre-finished, probably engineered floor. In the final space, we have, again, it's a walnut floor, but it's different. It's been changed. And because we have a wall that's been removed, even if we save the floor, we'd have to find a way to actually patch that floor. But in this case, the whole floor has been replaced. So let's also write flooring. And that is in the kitchen. And we'll actually get an area here. So because we're taking the kitchen floor out, let's get an approximate to let our partners know where we might be donating this material, how much we actually have to donate. So the kitchen from the floor plan is 14 foot 7.5. So let's round down 14.5 by 9 foot 1 across. So we can simply say 14.5 by 9. So if I pull up a calculator, it's just 14.5 times 9. So 130. I can say approximately I have 130 square feet. That way, if I call someone to donate this material, I have an idea to tell them how much of this flooring I have. So let's find where we can send some of these things. So by pulling up a browser, we can search donate appliances or donate flooring, donate cabinets, and then put an asterisk and then put the city you're in. For us, it's Toronto because the projects often we're using are in Toronto. So let's go down and we'll find Habitat has a listing for acceptable items. So let's click on this, and Habitat is a great organization that both builds homes for people in need, but they also have a restore where they resell reusable items that can be used to finance their projects. So they accept furniture, bathroom fixtures, renovation materials, hardware and tools, kitchen cabinets, countertops, appliances, doors, windows, and flooring. So it looks like they can take our appliances, our flooring, and our kitchen. So we will simply say destination. This is going to go to the Habitat. It's called a restore. So all of that can get donated to that destination. Now, let's imagine that we've removed this entire interior. So again, we started with the initial kitchen. We can also look at reusing the window, right? That can get removed and donated because in the final kitchen, that's been removed. So as we get to the basic space and down to essentially a drywall box, the next layer is look at our wall assemblies that we're removing. So because we're installing this LVL on the ceiling, the bearing wall that was below it has to be removed. So we can go and think about the wall assembly, which might have wood trim at the floor, drywall on the studs, and then the studs themselves. So if we go to our recycled content, if we can't reuse those studs in their existing shape, which is often hard to do, we can say that these are often materials that can be recycled. We can recycle metal, plastics, wood, and a lot more things. So let's talk about these. We'll talk about trim. We'll say location. We can say kitchen. If it's through the entire main floor, you can simply say trim main floor. The amount, if you're thinking about this as how much space it takes in a bin, you can think about linear footage. So let's think about trim as thinking we have a room. We have a room in here that we have is 14.5 feet long on two sides and 9 feet on the other side. Let's say approximately 40 linear feet. And we're going to find a destination for that. The next layer on our wall is our drywall. So we can say drywall. And again, that's the kitchen. We can approximate the area. So if I'm doing an entire main floor, I can simply take the wall area of the entire main floor to get a square footage of roughly how much drywall I have. Because I'm only taking off this wall that's 14.5 feet long, and this wall here that's 7.5 feet long, I can go to my calculator again, and I can say 14.5 plus 7.5, and that's my linear foot of wall. I have looking at the plan, I have an 8-foot ceiling. So that's my linear foot, and then I multiply that by the height, and that gives me the area. And that's only on one side of the wall. So I have 176 square feet on one side of each wall. So if I multiply that by 2, I get how much drywall I'll be removing from both sides of those walls. So I have 352 square feet. So I go back to my chart and write 352 square feet. All right. For framing, I'm going to say framing. Again, that's going to be in the kitchen for this project. And framing can be different. You can talk about the amount of studs in linear feet. So if we're thinking about conventional framing and framing on 16-inch centers, I can take my wall 14.5 and again 7.5. And when you consider things like doorways and openings, you don't have to look at dividing that length by increments of 16. We can actually use an increment of 12. It accounts for the jacks and kings that might be in there that add to the overall. So I can take my wall again. I had 14.5 plus 7.5 is 22 feet, linear feet. I can divide that by 12. So I'll say approximately 22 feet, times 12 inches. That gives me total inches, 264. Divide that by 12 inches, and I have 22 studs. There's roughly 22 studs I'll take out of this wall. And I also have all the plate material, but let's just pretend we have studs for now. So I go back to my chart and say I've got 22 studs, right? Or I can also convert that to linear feet if I want. I can say 22 times 8 gives me the linear foot of frame material. So 176 linear feet. So let's find a destination for this. Again, if we call a bin disposal company that does not prioritize waste diversion, we might send it to a landfill. Let's go back to our list. We'll go and find drywall. So I'll search Toronto drywall recycling, and I want to put it in a bin. I want to have the bin on site so I can load it and make my life really easy. So if I find a company that does drywall removal and waste disposal, and again, we can read this and determine whether the service is appropriate and whether their service includes our area. But someone like this company might recycle drywall and take away waste. So it looks like they have a bin system. They'll do disposal bins, and I can choose what size bin I actually want to have, right? 7 yard, 14 yard. So I can get there when I actually approximate how much I'm removing. And that's why the areas of material or volume is really appropriate to choose how many bins you need. So let's say for now, we'll use Romano Disposal Services. Go to destination and Romano. Okay. So what that means is, we're going to use this company and propose using it to recycle our drywall to ensure that it does not go to landfill. We'll simply make a note here that we're going to call for a bin, but this is the company we want to call. Oh, sorry, that should be in our drywall area. Now, let's find a company for both our trim and our framing. So we'll go back and I search recycle renovation materials. You could look for waste diversion companies and then put the city that you're working in. So in this case, I'm doing recycle renovation materials Toronto. I've read through a lot of listings here, but I found a company called Junket. And they're a company that will look at their service areas, a lot of Toronto and the connecting areas as far as Ajax and all the way down to Hamilton. They do both junk removal and bin or dumpster rental. So we can rent from them. And if we go to their services, they describe sort of how they are a complete waste diversion company and specialize in material recycling. So I need to use them for my bin company for this project. And I can simply just say, this is my destination. Junket will do the removal and we're going to do call for bin. Okay, and I can copy that down for one of the layers here. Now, as I go further in that wall, I'd have things like metal ducting and electrical wiring. These other areas I can see who's the most appropriate person or company to pick this up to ensure I'm diverting as much as possible. So layer by layer, we're going to work through our projects to make sure we're accounting for all the things we're taking apart. And we can be as general as this. Trim is going to junket, it's from the kitchen. If you have things like doors and hardware, you can add those as additional light items. If the client has also told you, listen, I don't really want the lighting fixtures, you can assume to take those out. But you can assume you're starting from a space that the client has removed all their personal items. Now, everything else where we haven't been able to divert, we have to list here in materials that end up in the waste bin. So that might be types of flooring like linoleum tile in a basement that you scrape off a floor. If you break it into pieces, you really can't reuse these things. So anything you haven't been able to put under our reuse area or our recycling area, you have to declare that it's going to landfill. So name, location, amount, all the same. Find a destination, whether that's the municipal dump, if you're going to take it there, or whether you're having a bin company come that just does waste removal. The last part of our plan is, given all the amounts and areas we filled out, you can approximate how many 10 or 20 yard bins you might be filling full of recycled materials. So in this case, at the end of my project, I can say, I think based on our removals, we're saving 1 bin worth of material. That's all my drywall and all my framing and my appliances. And my estimated waste bins, I think I need 1 more. That would be the actual waste itself. So I could say, because I don't have that much waste in this project, and again, I only get to that by actually adding up my different areas and thinking about how much of a bin that's going to fill. Now, if you're unsure about how much a bin fills, look at bin sizes, look at the volume they fit to determine what you think you need. So because we've done a good job on this project to divert all the appliances, countertops, windows, flooring, trim, drywall, framing, that's a lot of material. If I use a 20-yard bin, I can say 1 20-yard bin. If I only have a small amount of deconstruction that I can't send to a recycler in his landfill, I use a much smaller bin. I can say 1 10-yard bin. Now, why this is important is it allows us to set a goal for the project. So when we're tracking, later we can determine, did we hit our diversion goal? And did we end up sending, on this project, a 10-yard bin to landfill? Because what this ends up being is, we have 66% of material going for diversion, 33% going to a landfill. So it gives us a goal here. So I hope that's helpful, looking at how we approach a project. And again, the best way to start is pull up the plans, get familiar with all the things being deconstructed, consider the layers being removed, take a look at the existing photographs, compare those to the proposed plans, and start making a list of all these things that you'll be taking out, and try and put them in the appropriate categories of reusing, recycling, and sending to landfill.